How are you, folks? Dave Brown back here with the New Populist. Thank you again for joining me. Now, one thing we like to do in the United States is we like to look out across the world at all the evil countries and point out that they don't have democracy or that their electoral process is completely corrupted and that you cannot trust the results of elections in certain countries. And which countries are those? Russia, Iran, North Korea, China. These countries, anything that happens there is the result of corruption, and there's no democracy. Now, in the case of North Korea, okay, I will give you North Korea. They clearly don't have a democracy. That is a very authoritarian country with their dear leader, Kim Jong-un. So I give you North Korea. But other countries, I can't look at them and really say that we, the United States, are that much different. Now, take Russia, for example, Vladimir Putin. He recently won his election with, I think, around 86% of the vote, which seems like a lot. But then you consider the fact that if you look at his polling done by Western pollsters who don't like him, he regularly polls well above 80%. And during a time of war, it's not inconceivable that he would get 86% of the vote from his people, especially since there's no other real candidates running against him. Now, you can argue that there's a reason for that. No one can, and I take that in consideration. But the idea that the actual vote had to be rigged to win or for Putin to get 86%, I don't think that was necessary. Why go through that trouble when you're already very popular? And then you have a country like Ukraine. We talk about Ukraine's democracy, which we helped overthrow in 2014. And then just recently, they canceled their election. So we helped overthrow their democracy. And now they're not having elections because the war, that's their excuse. And okay, that is an excuse, but just the irony. No elections. Vladimir Zelensky or Volodymyr Zelensky is still in power, and he will be there because God knows how long this war goes on. So he's essentially, not a dictator, but he's given himself a lot of power and taken the power from the people to really control their future. If you live in Ukraine and you're a young man, at some point in time, you are likely to be drafted and sent to the front, and there's not much you can do about it. You try to leave, they catch you, boom, you're right in the military. So there's not a lot of options for people in Ukraine, especially, again, young men who are really in a tough jam there because they're running out of people. And then you have countries like China. We obviously call China an authoritarian country, and about a year ago, they had the 20th CCP National Congress, and there was an interesting video taken where the former president, Hu Jintao, was removed from the closing ceremony. And I'll play this video for you because it's kind of funny. And at the time when it happened, we in the West were going, look at China. You got this former president here being forcibly removed, and right there in the middle you have the current president, Xi Jinping, and there's something going on here. We can't figure it out. Something with the papers. He's having some disagreement, and he looks a little confused, and they're trying to figure it out, and the aide comes over, and they're, what's going on here? And eventually, as we get to the point here, they help him out of his seat, to say it nicely, and they slowly remove him, and the rest of the people in the room just sort of look forward and just, we're not going to really pay attention to this. We're just going to keep our heads down, keep our eyes down, and just sort of ignore this guy being removed from the this process here. And there's Xi Jinping in the middle with a little bit of a funny look on his face, a little wry smile as Hu Jintao is being removed. And when this happened, again, we here in the United States, we're going, oh, look at China. They're an authoritarian country. They don't have democracy. So we have our criticisms of these other countries, China, Russia, Iran. But what about our own country? Let's look at what's happening right now. So, of course, we have the Republican Party with Donald Trump. They impeached him twice, back in 2018 and 2020. And then they charged him with felonies in 4 different states. Some were state charges, some were federal. He was actually convicted. He's had all sorts of civil lawsuits against him for hundreds of millions of dollars in these corrupt court cases. And then just recently, he was hit with an assassin's bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania, nearly killed in one of the most egregious failures by the Secret Service. If we're to believe it was in fact a failure and not an intentional standing down by the Secret Service, so that somebody could go and try to shoot him. So, how good do you feel about the democratic process when this is how we're treating a president and former president? Clearly, the lengths they're going to remove him, so we can't have the democratic process. It can't be overstated. They try to kill him, whoever they are. But now let's look at the Democrat side. We know in 2016 and 2020, the Democrats fixed their primary process to get their preferred person in. It was Clinton in 2016 to crowd out Bernie Sanders. It was Biden in 2020. And now here in 2024, we have Joe Biden, who won the nomination. And now he's being pushed aside for Kamala Harris. And he says he's not running for re-election. Of course, today is Tuesday, the 23rd, and he has been missing for almost a week. So we don't even know if he's alive. I think he is, but he's hasn't been heard or seen from except for a phone call he made during a speech by Kamala Harris that was very suspicious. So we don't even know what's going on with Joe Biden. But now the Democrats are worried that, wow, our voters didn't vote on whoever's going to be our nominee, and we're going to a convention. And if we go to a convention and we don't have a nominee, all sorts of chaos could break out, and that'll be very bad for the party. So what have they done? Well, this is what they've done. The Democrat Party plans to push forward with a virtual roll call in which delegates to its convention can choose a presidential nominee before they gather next month in Chicago, despite Vice President Kamala Harris being overwhelmingly favored to replace Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. The Convention Rules Committee will meet Wednesday to approve how the virtual roll call will work. But a draft of the plan was obtained by the Associated Press on Monday night. It does not list a date for when virtual voting would begin, but Democrat National Committee Chair Jamie Harrison said the process will be completed by August 7th, or 12 days before the party's convention begins. So, in order to avoid a food fight at the convention, they're going to change the rules and have somebody nominated virtually before the convention, which means that they can go behind the scenes, get all these delegates in place, give them the old beat down so they're cooperative, and they'll vote and get their nominee before the convention. So it's they're working really hard to prevent any sort of food fight at the convention where other people can come in and say, hey, vote for me, Gavin Newsom, whoever might have been, and they're getting rid of all of that. The whole process is going to be nicely fixed, so it goes nice and smooth, and we get our nominee, who likely will be Kamala Harris. All the people in the press are really building her up, and overnight we're pretending that we don't know who she is. She is well known for being an idiot. She was a terrible senator. She got on the ticket in 2020, largely in part because of the George Floyd riots. They wanted a woman of color on the ticket so that she was available. She was a person. But again, she's always been known to be a moron. Just go watch any speech. Go watch any speech she gives. She's an idiot. Yet now, again, overnight, she is this amazing person. She's so smart. She was a former district attorney or attorney general in California. Wow. And she put criminals behind bars. Wow, this lady's amazing. So right now they're rebuilding her image and positioning her to be she is going to be the nominee for the Democrats. So about our democracy, how good do you feel about our democracy when this is how we select our candidates and this is how we try to remove the candidates we don't like? Yeah, we're going to look around the world and judge other people for their lack of democracy. And what bothers me too is, and this is the point I always make, the ruling class can't do what they do unless we, the people, let them. Has there been any outcry from Democrats in any substantial way contesting how they're picking the nominee this year? Is anybody really upset? Is there anybody riding anywhere? Anybody throwing a stink up saying, hey, this is ridiculous? So there's some commentators who don't like it, but for the most part, everybody is going along with it. So if we think that we're losing our democracy, well, we clearly aren't fighting for it, and many of our countrymen don't seem to care. And they will go to the ballot box in November, and they'll vote for Kamala Harris because they're a good Democrat. And again, no one seems to really mind. And on the Republican side, we care a little more. Let's say, for example, that Trump had been killed. Thank God he wasn't. Say he had been killed. What would have happened? There would have been some rioting. People would have gotten together, maybe at his residence in Florida and a few other places, and might have had some rioting going on, and the police would have came in. They would have shut it down. Anybody who went a little too far, well, they would have the FBI knocking on their door within the next few weeks, and they'll be gone, just like the people from January 6th. And then we would have had a convention, and somebody like a Nikki Haley would have been nominated, and that's that. So our ruling class, who absolutely disdain democracy, don't think for a second that they like democracy, they're able to do what they do because they have no real fear of us. We're going to go along with it. The Democrats are going along with it right now. No one seems to care. And until they actually fear us in a real way, they will continue to do it. And the problem is, how do you get them to fear us without us putting ourselves in a position to have the FBI come and knock on our door for extremism, for trying to subvert democracy in some way, for insurrection? That's really the challenge, is trying to figure that out. And honestly, I don't have a good answer for that right now, other than work like hell legally and to support candidates that are actually trying to fight back, do poll watching, try to make sure that they're not going to do too much shenanigans during the election. But there isn't a one single thing that can just be transformative as far as really stopping them. There's not, and that's what's so frustrating for a lot of people, sort of having this feeling that they're impotent to do anything, and I certainly understand that. So again, we don't live in a democracy. A lot of countries don't have democracies, and you really wonder, democracy, like, is it ever anything we've ever actually had, or is it just an idea? And there's always been people behind the curtain just pulling the strings for us to think that we live in a democracy. And unfortunately, the more you look back at history, the more you go, I'm not sure we ever really did have this democracy that we gloat about to the rest of the world. maybe it is an illusion. But, oh well. Well, that's it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.